This happened last winter while driving night shifts on Detroit streets. By the third week, I learned why no driver wanted to go to 5th Street after 2 a.m. I'm Danny Rodriguez. I'm 34 years old, and I've been driving taxi in Detroit for 8 years. I worked day shifts until my wife Jessica lost her job. We have 2 kids, and I had to switch to night shift to cover our mortgage payments. I worked for Detroit Taxi Company. The company owner, Old Tony, was an Italian-American with 30 years of experience. While explaining the night rules to me, he took a deep drag from his cigarette. "Danny boy," he had said, "night is a different world. There's a big difference between daytime customers and night customers." "What kind of difference?" "At night, strange people come out, drunk people, crazy people, dangerous people. And sometimes..." "Sometimes what, Tony?" "Sometimes people you can't explain." He had said this in a strange way, but I needed the money and night shift paid double. The first 2 weeks were normal. Drunk college kids, people leaving bars, airport runs, standard stuff. Nightlife in Detroit was always active. But the third week, Tuesday night, everything changed. At exactly 2:15 a.m., I got a call from dispatch. "Danny, pick up at corner of 5th and Elm Street. Customer waiting." 5th Street was a place I knew downtown, not very busy but a normal area. When I got to the customer pickup point, she was standing alone. A middle-aged woman, maybe 40s, pale complexion, wearing a long, dark coat. It was snowing lightly, and the woman seemed to be shivering. "Where to?" I asked in my usual manner. "Riverside Cemetery," she said in a quiet voice. "Section D, plot 47. It was a strange destination, but not unusual. Sometimes people visit graves at odd hours, especially after bad news or anniversary dates. During the drive, the woman didn't talk at all. I occasionally looked in the rearview mirror. She was staring out the window, very still. Something seemed off, but I couldn't put my finger on exactly what. Riverside Cemetery was a big place, Detroit's main cemetery since the 1800s. The night entrance would normally be locked. "Ma'am, the cemetery's closed at night. I can drop you at the main gate." "Drive to Section D," she said in a firm voice. "The gate will be open." I checked the gateway. Surprisingly, it was open. Weird, but maybe the caretaker forgot to lock it. I drove through the winding cemetery roads to Section D. The woman continued to remain silent. When I reached plot 47, she pointed to an old headstone. "Here," she said. I stopped the car. I waited for her to get out, but she didn't move. "Ma'am, we're here." I looked in the rearview mirror. The back seat was empty. My heart started racing. "Ma'am?" The car was completely empty. The woman was nowhere to be seen. But just seconds ago she was sitting in the back seat. I stepped out of the car and looked around the cemetery. No footprints in the snow except mine. No sign that anyone had been in the car. I checked the headstone she had pointed to. I read the inscription. Margaret Winters, 1942 to 1987. Beloved mother, taken too soon. This woman had died in 1987, 36 years ago. I freaked out and quickly drove back to dispatch. I told Tony about the weird experience. "What did she look like?" Tony asked. I described Margaret, pale, dark coat, quiet demeanor. Tony's face went white. "Danny, where exactly did you pick her up?" "Corner of 5th and Elm." "Jesus Christ." Tony sat down heavily. "That corner, that's where Margaret Winters died." "What do you mean?" "Car accident, November 23rd, 1987. Hit by a drunk driver exactly at that corner. She was calling a taxi to go visit her mother's grave. The taxi never came." A chill ran down my spine. "Tony, are you saying..." "I'm saying maybe she's still waiting for that taxi ride." The next night, Thursday, I tried a different route. I avoided 5th Street completely. Normal night, no weird passengers. But Friday night, on autopilot, I approached 5th Street. At the corner of 5th and Elm, the same woman was waiting. Same dark coat, same pale face. This time, I was ready. "Margaret," I said softly. The woman looked at me through the passenger window. "You came back." "Yes. You're Margaret Winters." She nodded slowly. "I've been waiting." "So long." Margaret, you died in 1987. I know, but I never got to say goodbye to my mother. My heart ached for her. Your mother, she's probably dead too, I know, but I need to try. Will you take me? I couldn't refuse. Get in. This time I watched carefully in the mirror. Margaret sat quietly, looking out the window. But her reflection was strange, sometimes clear, sometimes faded, sometimes not. There at all. We arrived at Riverside Cemetery. The gate was mysteriously open again. I drove to Section D. Plot 47, Margaret said. When I stopped, Margaret finally got out. She walked to the headstone, not her own, but the adjacent one. Helen Winters, 1920 to 1989, loving mother. Margaret knelt by her mother's grave. I couldn't hear the words, but her lips were moving, like she was praying. After a few minutes, she stood up. Thank you, she said to me. I waited 36 years for this moment. What happens now? Now I can rest. Margaret started walking away from the car, deeper into the cemetery. As she walked, her figure became more transparent. By the time she reached the old oak tree, she had completely disappeared. I never saw Margaret again after that night, but the story doesn't end there. Saturday night, a different passenger called, male voice, "Corner of 5th and Elm, please." I arrived at the corner, a young man, maybe 25, wearing 1990s-style clothes, flannel shirt, baggy jeans. Where to? I asked. Detroit River Bridge, east side. During the drive, the passenger kept looking at his hands. I can't believe it still works, he muttered. What works? This. He showed me a cell phone, but it was a phone model from 1995, a Nokia brick phone. I died with this in my pocket. You died? Car accident. Same corner you picked me up. December 3rd, 1995. I was crossing the street to catch a taxi. A drunk driver hit me. Same corner, same scenario, different year. What's your name? Tommy Sullivan. I was going to propose to my girlfriend that night. Had the ring in my pocket. We reached the bridge. Tommy got out and walked to the railing. He looked down at the dark water. She married someone else, he said sadly. Had kids. A happy life. How do you know? I watch sometimes, from a distance, making sure she's okay. Tommy, you need to let go. I know, but it's hard, leaving her behind. Tommy climbed over the railing. Tell her I'm happy she found love. He jumped into the river. I rushed to the edge, but there was no splash, no ripples, just dark water. The next week I researched Tommy Sullivan. I found an obituary from 1995. He died in a car accident at 5th and Elm, exactly as he described. I realized what was happening. That corner, the intersection of 5th and Elm, was a collection point. People who died there, especially while waiting for taxis, somehow remained. The following nights brought more passengers. Jennifer Martinez, 1979, hit by a car while pregnant, waiting for a taxi to the hospital. Robert Kim, 2003, heart attack at the bus stop, called a taxi for the hospital but died waiting. Angela Brown, 2010, murdered while waiting for a ride home from work. All died at the same corner, all trapped until someone gave them the final ride they needed. Each passenger had a different destination, places they needed to go before death, unfinished business keeping them earthbound. Jennifer wanted to see the ultrasound photo of her unborn baby. Robert needed to apologize to his estranged son. Angela wanted to deliver a birthday gift to her daughter. I helped each one complete their final journey. Each time they faded away peacefully after reaching their destination. Word spread among taxi drivers. Danny's got the ghost route, they joked, but it wasn't a joking matter. A month later, I received a call from Detroit Police Detective Morrison. Mr. Rodriguez, we need to ask about the 5th and Elm intersection. What about it? We've been investigating missing persons reports. People keep disappearing from that corner. Taxi passengers. They call for rides, but when drivers arrive, nobody's there. But you've been picking up passengers from that exact spot multiple times. I realized the police were tracking my fares. The GPS system showed pickups, but no drop-off records. because the passengers weren't reaching final destinations in a normal way. Detective, this might sound crazy. Try me. What kind of people? I told him everything. About Margaret, Tommy, the others. About the corner being a collection point for people who died waiting. The detective was quiet for a long time. Mr. Rodriguez, that intersection has the highest traffic fatality rate in Detroit. 47 deaths since 1975. All pedestrians waiting for transportation. 47? Yes, and according to missing persons reports, people still see figures waiting at that corner. But when help arrives, nobody's there. What do you think is happening? I think some people don't realize they're dead. They keep waiting for the ride that never comes, until someone finally gives them that ride. Exactly. Detective Morrison made an unusual request. Would you be willing to keep helping? Officially? What do you mean? We can't force officers to handle supernatural cases. But if a willing civilian wants to help lost souls find peace, I agreed to the partnership. Police would alert me when missing person reports came from the 5th and Elm corner. I would investigate and provide final rides to trapped spirits. Over the next 6 months, I helped 23 more passengers find peace. Each story was different, each unfinished business unique. But the pattern was the same. They died waiting for transportation and remained trapped until someone cared enough to help. The most memorable was 8-year-old Billy Patterson. He died in 1981 walking to school. He got lost in a blizzard and froze to death at the corner waiting for help. "I just want to go home," he said from the back seat. "Mama's waiting." I drove him to the address he remembered. The house was still there, but a different family was living there. Billy's mother had died in 1995, never knowing what happened to her son. I found Billy's mother's grave. He placed a small toy car, the same one he died clutching, on the headstone. "Tell Mama I made it home," he said as he faded away. That case broke my heart, but it also showed me the purpose of this work. Jessica initially thought I was losing my mind. "Danny, you're talking about ghost passengers. I know how it sounds. Maybe you need help." Therapy. "Jess, I'm helping lost souls find peace. These people suffered traumatic deaths and remain trapped, or you're having stress-induced hallucinations from overwork." I understood her concern, but GPS records confirmed the pickups. Security cameras at the intersection showed me stopping for passengers that weren't visible on camera. Detective Morrison backed up my experiences. "Your husband is performing community service," he told Jessica. "Unusual community service, but legitimate. Current situation. I'm still driving nights, still helping lost souls when called upon. The 5th and Elm intersection has become peaceful recently. Fewer trapped spirits. But I learned something important about death and unfinished business. Sometimes people remain earthbound not because of evil or supernatural forces, but because they died with incomplete journeys. Every transportation worker, taxi drivers, bus drivers, rideshare drivers should know this. If you pick up a passenger who seems out of place, out of time, listen carefully. They might need your help more than you realize. And if you drive past accident sites, especially at night, sometimes you might see people waiting. They're not trying to scare you. They're just hoping someone will finally take them where they needed to go." Margaret got to say goodbye to her mother. Tommy found peace about his girlfriend's happiness. Billy made it home to Mama. Sometimes the most important rides we give aren't to the living. They're to souls who've been waiting decades for someone to care enough to stop. If you like this story, don't forget to comment and subscribe.